Hi everyone, today we're going to use the factor label method for conversions. We'll start by looking at some US customary units. It'll be important to either write these down or print them so that you have them handy as you're doing your homework or finishing projects. With length, we have 12 inches is 1 foot, 3 feet is a yard, 5,280 feet is 1 mile, and 1,760 yards is a mile. Looking at weight, 16 ounces is a pound, 2,000 pounds is 1 ton, and then capacity, 8 ounces is a cup, 2 cups is a pint, and then 2 pints is a quart, followed by 4 quarts is a gallon. Before we talk about the metric system, I wanted to cover some common metric prefixes. The prefix kilo, that has an abbreviation of K, has the meaning of 1,000. Centi, abbreviation C, means 1 over 100, and then milli has an abbreviation M, and it means 1 over 1,000. Again, here are some things that you're going to want to write down or maybe print, which are the metric customary units. So we have 100 centimeters is 1 meter, 1,000 meters is a kilometer, 1,000 millimeters is 1 meter. When we go to weight, 100 grams is a kilogram, 1,000 milligrams is 1 gram, and then capacity, 1,000 liters is a kiloliter, and 1,000 milliliters is 1 liter. So here's an even bigger chart that talks about conversions from metric to US. So metric on the left, US on the right, but you could use them in either direction, whichever way the problem is worded. So we'll start with length. 1 meter is about 1.09 yards. That's pretty close to being the same. In feet, a meter is 3.28 feet. A kilometer would be equal to 0.62 miles. There are 2.5 centimeters and 1 inch. 0.3 meters would be 1 foot. And 1.61 kilometers would be a mile. Looking at weight, a kilogram is about 2.20 pounds, 1 gram is 0.04 ounces, 0.45 kilograms would be a pound, and 28.35 kilograms would be 1,000 ounces. If we look at capacity, a liter is 1.06 quarts. A liter could be expressed as 0.26 gallons. There are 3.79 liters in a gallon. 0.95 liters in a quart, 29.57 milliliters in 1 fluid ounce, and then 28.32 liters is equal to a cubic foot. So lots of ways to go back and forth and measure from metric to US. Before we get started, we want to just think about how do I decide what to use? And a lot of it has to do with how big a quantity is. So this is not to scale, but I wanted you to think that inches are small, feet are bigger, yards are even bigger, and the miles are much bigger. So if we have something small, we might use inches. If we have something big, we'll probably use miles. So let's try that with some common things that we could talk about, like a watch. So if we were going to measure a watch, the easiest thing we could do would be to measure that in inches. But something tall like a palm tree would make more sense to measure in feet. Distances between cities, we would want to use miles. Now if we have something small, and I like this picture because we have an ant that's small, but then we have even smaller ants. So if I wanted to describe one of these ants, we don't have a great thing to use in the US measure system. We would have to use inches and just try to get as small as possible. And it's nice that we get to revisit this looking at the metric system. So in the metric system, here's how things move. So our small unit is a millimeter. We get bigger to a centimeter, bigger to a meter, and then the biggest unit is a kilometer. So millimeter really small up to kilometer really big. Then if I went back and I wanted to measure these same 4 things like a watch, I would want to use centimeters. If I was looking at the palm tree, I would want to use a meter. Distances between cities would be a kilometer. And then these tiny little ants, we could use millimeters. So the metric system does have this smaller unit that's nice for us to use to be able to measure something that's really tiny. So when we're converting back and forth from one unit of measure to another, and it doesn't matter if we're in the US system and the metric system or going in between the two of them, the easiest way to change from one unit of measure to another is to use something called the unit ratio method. So what we're going to do is set up an original amount as a fraction with its unit of measure in the numerator. So we might just be dividing by 1, that's fine, but that way we're just starting to think about fractions. Then we're going to find the relationship to where we're trying to convert. So we're going to get a unit ratio containing what we have and what we want to have. Now, every once in a while, it may take us a couple tries to get there, and that's okay, but that is the goal, is to get from one measure to the other. As we set up this unit ratio along with our original, we're going to be multiplying. So as we multiply the original number associated with the unit of measure in fraction form, you want to make sure you have the original measure in the denominator of our unit measure. That might sound like a lot. You may have no idea what I'm talking about, so let's try some examples. Let's find the number of minutes in 9 hours. So we're going to start with, we know 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. So my unit, I'm starting with 9 hours, and I'm going to multiply. So we said we're going to make this a fraction. So I'm going to do 9 hours over 1. I have a fraction. When I make this relationship that I'm putting beside it, remember I said I want you to have the hours in the denominator. So I'm going to put 1 hour in the denominator and 60 minutes in the numerator. What's going to happen is I can cancel the hour with the hour. Then I do 9 times 60 is 540. Notice I still have minutes, so I can write minutes at the end. Let's try it again. Let's find the number of inches in 15 feet. So I start with 15 feet. I can make it a fraction by putting it over 1. So my known conversion is 12 inches is a foot. The foot goes in the denominator. That way I can cancel the feet. 12 inches goes on top. 15 times 12 is 180. We only have this unit of inches left, so that will be our measure. This time we want to find the number of feet in 90 inches. So again, feet in inches, but in a different way. This time I'm starting with inches. So I have 90 inches. I'll put it over 1. And I have 12 inches as a foot. Now the inches needs to go in the denominator. That way it will cancel inches to inches. 1 foot goes on top. I always have to have something on top and bottom. So you can see as you're going across, I have 90 over 12. 90 over 12 is 7.5. And now this is in feet. Let's try this with the metric system. Find the number of centimeters in 74 meters. Start with 74 meters times, I have 1 meter is 100 centimeters. The 1 meter needs to go in the denominator, 100 centimeters in the numerator. If you want to keep two fractions, you can put the 74 over 1. I can see the meters are canceling. 74 times 100 is 7,400, and now this is centimeters. Let's find the number of pounds in 24 ounces. Start with 24 ounces. The abbreviation is OZ. Then I have 16 ounces in a pound, so the ounces goes in the denominator. I put 1 pound in the numerator. I can put this over 1. The ounces cancel the ounces. 24 divided by 16 gives me 1.5, and remember, our new unit is pounds. Let's find the number of liters in 6 gallons. We have 1 liter is 0.26 gallons. I'm going to start with 6 gallons. I'm going to multiply. Gallons needs to go on the bottom, so I put 0.26 gallons, and that becomes 1 liter. 6 divided by 0.26 comes out with a bunch of decimals, so I'm going to make this 23.08. And this is liters. I got 23.0769, so I went ahead and rounded that 76 up to an 8. We can also do this with money, and this will change all the time. Currency does not stay the same from day to day. So on the day that I looked this up, it said that 1 Mexican peso is equal to 0.05 US dollars. So let's find the number of US dollars in 855 pesos. Start the same way. I have 855 pesos. I'm just going to write the whole word. Then when I multiply, I want to put the peso in the denominator. And then in the numerator, I put 0.05. And I'm just going to write a $sign because we're used to dollars. So this time I'm multiplying across. 855 times 0.05 says this would be equal to $42.75. Let's find the number of centimeters in 2 kilometers. So earlier I said if we can, we want to go straight from one unit to the other, but sometimes you may have to take a step in between. I don't have a conversion from centimeters to kilometers. But what I know is they both have meters in common when I look at unit conversions. So I'm going to start with 2 kilometers. And I'm first going to go to meters. So what I notice is 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. So I put 1 kilometer in the denominator, 1,000 meters in the numerator. And then next I'm going to bring in the relationship between meters and centimeters. So I say 1 meter is 100 centimeters. And then I multiply. This gives me 2 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. So we could put a comma in there so you can see what it is. Let's take care of the units. Kilometers, canceled. Meters, canceled. Centimeters. What if a car can drive 640 miles on 20 gallons of gas? How many gallons are needed for the car to travel 2,000 miles? So as we go, these are going to get more complicated and you're going to have to think about what's going to happen. Let's start with what we know. The car can go 640 miles on 20 gallons. This says the car gets 32 miles per gallon. Now we want to go 2,000 miles. So here we have 2,000 miles. So what we want to think about is how are we going to get from 2,000 miles to how many gallons of gas we need. I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. The first way would be to stick with our unit conversions, where we could say, what are we trying to get rid of? We're trying to get rid of miles. So I would put 640 on the bottom for miles. And I would put the 20 gallons on top so that my answer is in gallons. The miles would cancel the miles. Then I have 2,000 times 20 divided by 640, and that equals 62.5 gallons. Now another way you can do it, which kind of combines some ideas, is just to take the 2,000, this was miles, divide by the 32 miles per gallon. And I'm going to write it as M over G. So the M cancels the M, but I have this kind of weird fraction that will kind of flip over. Watch what happens. I put 2,000 divided by 32 in my calculator, and it also gives me 62.5 gallons. So I like to show you, as always, multiple ways to do the same thing. So we can break down to how many miles do we get per gallon, divide how many miles we want to go, and it tells me how many gallons I need, or you can stick with the unit conversion that we're covering in this section, and you'll get the same answer. Let's try one more, and let's go a little bit bigger. Let's try to find the number of seconds in a day. So we're starting with a day, so we have 1 day. And I want to get to seconds, but I don't have a conversion. So I think about, well, 1 day has 24 hours. But then I also know every hour has 60 minutes. But then every minute has 60 seconds. So we had to do multiple things here to get from a day all the way to seconds. But watch, the day cancels, hours cancel, minutes cancel. My only unit left is seconds. 24 times 60 times 60 is 86,400 seconds. We're going to come back and look at these more, so don't worry if it takes a little while to get used to it. Don't try to do this without looking at the conversion sheet, and then come back and watch the next video so you can see how to make this even bigger.